Professor, what is your vision about the distribution sector in 10 years?
In 10 years. Well, I think going out 10 years is very, very interesting. I'd like to go back 10 years or a little more to start with. If I were to ask, when did internet come in? It came in, I think it was 1992. When did the iPhone come along? iPhone has been with us since, I think it's 18 or 16 years old. These technologies haven't been around very long, and yet they've totally changed the way we do retail. In fact, when I'm with my students and you ask questions like that, they think that iPhones have been here forever. They think the internet's been here forever. Because they've grown up, most of my students are about 20 years old, and so they've grown up with the internet. They've grown up with iPhones, and they just take it for granted. And it's changed life for us, but I think especially it's changed life for young people, for what we call the millennials or the Generation Zs. I think these young people coming along live in a different technological age, and they will continue to behave in different ways, and that very much affects retail. I see my students being so adept at ordering on various platforms, and yes, they go to stores, but I think they go to stores and malls less than they used to at 20 years old. It's no longer the social scene that it once was. Now then you say, what's going to happen next? I don't know, but there's so much in the way of technology on the horizon that affects retail. Technology in terms of the Alexas, the in-home kinds of devices for communicating, supply chain changes. I mean, Zara is so brilliant that it's gotten it down in 2 or 3 weeks. I was with one of the manufacturers who's on a 9-month schedule. You know, they're sourcing out of Asia, they're getting to the stores 9 months later. I don't think that's viable any longer. And so we see a lot of retailers now trying to imitate Zara and trying to scramble to, how do I shorten my lead times? Because your predictive ability as to what's going to sell 9 months from now is bad. The statistic I saw was that about 40% of women's clothing goes on markdown, and when it goes on markdown, it gets marked down about 40–45%. And so I think we need to go beyond these 9-month supply chains, and we have to shorten it. I think Zara is leading the way. Some other companies, H&M and various others, are trying to do the same thing. So I think that's a major trend for the future. But then you go on and you think internationally. Many people think that Chinese retailing is more advanced than Western retailing. And to some extent, it's because they just leapfrogged, and the reason they leapfrogged is they didn't have the traditional department stores, and they didn't have credit cards, and so instead of inventing traditional department stores and credit cards, they just went to vertical department stores and leasing out space and not necessarily owning all the space yourself, and they went to digital payment systems through Alipay instead of credit cards. And so I think we're going to be going to, through the Baker Center, which I head, we're doing a conference and really a tour in China. And it's really for our retailers to learn what's going on in China and to see if indeed they are advanced, and what can we take away, what can we bring back to the States or to Europe. So where's retailing going? I don't know where retailing is going. What is retail? No one knows where retail is. It used to be stores, now it's stores, it's online, it's pop-ups, it's display centers, it's just so many different things. And it's all about consumer touch points and how do you design the right omni-channel platform to be able to meet the needs of consumers. So a lot is happening. It's exciting. It's a great time to be in retailing.
Mm-hmm. And is the distribution sector prepared to this new reality? Is the distribution chains prepared to?
You know, I think some are and some aren't. I think Alibaba may be the largest retailer in the world at the moment. I'm not sure. It depends whether you count their not only their consumer data, but also their business data. I think Amazon's doing a good job. There's certain stores. I mean, Corte Inglés seems to be doing very well in Spain at the present time, and we. In the 3 or 4 days we've had, here we had the privilege of being able to wander around and go into stores and try to learn. One of the things that's of interest to me is pop-ups, as maybe you know, and what we saw a very limited number of pop-ups, but we did see some as we were wandering around in Madrid in the last few days. But pop-ups represent another consumer touch point. And many brands are trying to get pop-ups out there to create a novelty effect, to get people interested, to get buzz, and to get media coverage. They're not necessarily trying to sell things in the pop-ups. For example, as I walked down Calle Carreras the other day, Serrano, there's a Tesla quote store. I don't know if it's pop-up or not, but they're not trying to sell that one Tesla in there. It's really a display center. They're trying to get people familiar with it, and they're trying to build a brand for the future. So I think pop-ups in the luxury category, we see LVMH doing it. We see Dior doing it. We see Prada. We see so many of these major brands doing it. Not to sell merchandise in that particular location, but to develop the brand image, to develop the awareness, to get people interested, and the objective is long-run sales. In fact, when we were talking to some of the executives, they said they don't measure sales in the pop-ups. They measure media mentions, they measure social media mentions, and they then measure how much media coverage they get from the pop-up. So it's changing. It's a brave new world. It's a great time to be in retailing. There are going to be winners and losers, and I think, you want to be one of the winners.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.